Hello everyone, welcome to History and Culture. On February 12, 1912, the 6-year-old Xiantong Emperor, Puyi, placed his seal on the abdication edict, marking the official end of the Qing dynasty. The empire that had lasted nearly 3 centuries became history. This dynasty had once made China gloriously magnificent, but also brought countless hardships. Yet, as time flows on, everything ultimately returns to dust and ashes. Those who once dominated the political scene, the emperors and ministers, the imperial relatives and nobles, have now become mere legends, whispered among Beijing's alleyways during people's tea-time chats. However, in the distant city of Kuqa, Xinjiang, the Qing dynasty princess consort still exists in reality. She resides in a palace covering 40,000 square meters. And her daily job is taking photos with tourists, for a mere 30 yuan per picture. What is even more unbelievable is that this princess consort is not only still alive but is not even an elderly woman with gray hair, she is a young lady in her prime. The Qing dynasty has long been gone for over 100 years. So why does she still hold the title of princess consort? Who exactly did she marry? And why is she still so young? According to historical records, in 2014, a special funeral took place on the streets of Kuqa County, Aksu Prefecture, Xinjiang. The crowd was dense, mourning music played softly, and people dressed in black held flowers, bidding their final farewell to the deceased. The man who passed away was an elderly gentleman named Dawuti, who lived to the age of 88. He had once served as the vice-chairman of the Kuqa City Political Consultative Conference, dedicating his life selflessly to his hometown and its people. However, those who knew him well were aware of his other, highly unusual identity, Prince of the Qing dynasty. That's right, Dawuti was known as China's last prince. And this title accompanied him until his final moments. Yet the Qing dynasty had perished over 100 years ago, and the glory of the feudal royal family had long become history. So why was there still a living prince? In fact, Dawuti's title of Prince of Kuqa was inherited through generations. By the time it was passed down to him, he was already the 12th in the lineage. Even more interestingly, his princely status was not directly bestowed by the Qing dynasty but was rather a hereditary regional title. But there was also an untold secret: he was not the direct heir to the Prince of Kuqa lineage. Historical records indicate that the first Prince of Kuqa was neither Manchu, Han, nor a descendant of the imperial family but was instead an outsider king. During the Qianlong era of the Qing dynasty, Xinjiang was in turmoil, with frequent uprisings led by the Dowager brothers. The Qing government struggled to control the situation from afar. Emperor Qianlong dispatched troops to suppress the rebellion. And it was during this war that a man named Ejui rose to prominence. Ejui had never participated in the rebellion, in fact. When the insurgents tried to recruit him, he refused because he longed for peace. However, to force his submission, the Dowager brothers cruelly threw his 2 sons and 1 daughter off the city walls, killing them. Enraged by the loss of his loved ones, Ejui swore vengeance against the rebels. He fought bravely alongside Qing forces, repeatedly achieving great military feats, and ultimately helped the imperial court quell the rebellion. As a reward, the Qing court bestowed upon him the title of Mirza Ejui, and granted him the hereditary position of Prince of Kuqa, allowing his descendants to rule over the Kuqa region. In reality, this method of bestowing titles was part of the Qing dynasty's governance strategy in multi-ethnic frontier regions. By supporting local powers, the Qing strengthened its control over borderlands, consolidating its rule while turning powerful figures like Ejui into pillars of imperial stability. Additionally, to showcase his wisdom and military prowess, Emperor Qianlong specially commissioned top craftsmen to construct a grand palace for the Prince of Kuqa in the old city of Kuqa. From that moment on, the Kuqa royal family stood guard over the northwest frontier for generations. bearing the responsibility of defending the borders. Their title was passed down in strict accordance with hereditary succession. The original, Prince of Kuqa's palace, was vast, with magnificent architecture that exuded imperial grandeur. Over the centuries, successive princes expanded it further, making the palace even more imposing and magnificent, ultimately becoming a landmark of Kuqa. During the Qing dynasty, the King of Kuqa held a significant position in Xinjiang, wielding immense power. However, with the fall of the Qing dynasty, the prestige of the King of Kuqa also declined, and those coveting the royal residence began to make their moves. In 1937, amidst the chaos of warlord conflicts, the situation became increasingly unstable. At that time, the King of Kuqa was no longer capable of protecting the royal residence and could only watch helplessly as warlords destroyed it. By then, the royal lineage had reached its 12th generation, Masit. However, was not the direct heir to the title. The 11th King of Kuqa, Mahfuz, had no children, yet the royal title needed to be passed on. Thus, the 2-year-old was adopted by his uncle Mahfuz and officially became the heir to the royal residence. From that moment, Dot's fate took a dramatic turn. He was brought to the royal residence and lived a privileged life. Upon reaching adulthood, a marriage was arranged for him, and he married his first wife. Throughout his life, had 6 marriages, not due to any special privileges, but because his life was filled with hardships and challenges. His first wife was gentle and virtuous, and they shared a deep emotional bond. Unfortunately, she tragically passed away due to childbirth complications. Later, married his late wife's younger sister, but for various reasons. The marriage eventually ended in an amicable divorce. Subsequently, he went through several more turbulent relationships until, at the age of 70, he met his final wife, Rayhanum. Rayhanum was 40 years younger than becoming his last consort and, consequently, China's only surviving last princess. However, despite marrying the King of Kuqa, she and never lived in the current Kuqa royal residence. By then, the residence had long been reduced to ruins during the war, leaving behind only broken walls and scattered debris. Later, due to significant contributions to the development of Xinjiang, the government allocated 13 million yuan to restore the Kuqa royal residence, based on recollections, ensuring the preservation of this historical landmark. The renovated royal residence, covering an area of 40,000 square meters, was completely revitalized and became a renowned tourist attraction in Xinjiang. And his wife Rayhanum lived there, though they only had the right to reside in the palace and did not own it. For tourists, the Kuqa royal residence is a historical site worth visiting. But for Rayhanum, it is truly her home. Within these walls, she and spent 18 wonderful years together until 2014. When passed away at the age of 88. On his deathbed, did not use his status to seek special privileges for his wife. Instead, he wished for her to rely on her own abilities to make a life for herself. However, Rayhanum had never done manual labor and couldn't think of a way to make a living at first. Fortunately, she was always a content person, living modestly with minimal daily expenses. As the fame of the Kuqa royal residence grew, the princess unexpectedly found herself with a career. Today, the Kuqa royal residence has become a comprehensive tourist attraction, housing the Kuqa Museum, the Kuqa Royal Residence Relics Museum, and the Kuqa Folk Culture Exhibition Hall, drawing numerous visitors. Yet, more than the grand architecture of the palace, many tourists are most eager to catch a glimpse of this legendary princess. Though she no longer possesses the power she once had, her title as princess still evokes curiosity and respect. Almost every visitor to the Kuqa royal residence has a chance to meet her. Her residence exudes rich Uyghur cultural charm, with vibrant decorations and walls adorned with photographs of her and The furniture is simple and unpretentious, a sofa, a tea table, far from luxurious. Yet, because of her identity, the space carries a profound historical weight. Most of the time, she sits on the sofa, greeting visitors warmly as they enter, shaking hands with a smile, without the slightest air of superiority. Many tourists are surprised by her approachable nature and youthful demeanor, admiring her elegance and composure. As more visitors arrived, the princess found a new way to make a living. Tourists who wished to take a photo with her could do so for a fee of 30 yuan. During the photo session, she would personally place a hat on the guest's head before sitting upright beside them, creating a memorable keepsake. Visitors always left with joy upon receiving their photos, but many also reflected on her life. Though she was still respectfully called Madam, she was now living an ordinary life, continuing to persevere, just like everyone else. This is the History and Culture channel. Liking and subscribing are the greatest help and support to us. Thank you everyone and see you in the next time.